Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone.
Oh,
This
Bro,
is
Bro, Bro, warte
episode.
mal. Wir müssen ja noch den Live. Warte, jetzt gehe ich gleich live. Ich drücke auf Go Live.
Ich habe gedrückt, wir sind schon live.
All right, guys, welcome to Hex Grassroots number 4 with Meister Hex here and with my colleague and friend Hex Misha. How's it going, Misha?
Hey, Meister Hex, what's up? Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited for this episode number 4. We got a nice special guest today. I will announce him quickly, okay? His name is Dr. Dipcatcher, doctor because he owns a PhD in hexonomics. And we just heard him here in the studio. He's already with us and he will join us in a couple of minutes. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And before we get him on, Meister, how was your week going? Anything new concerning Hex?
Yeah, we have a perfect guest, as you mentioned, the dip catcher. We have a really nice dip in Hex. I think many new Hexicans especially may be concerned what's going on, are worried. So I think our guest will explain what's up in here and relax them a little bit, take out the fear. Yeah, but I think the Hex dip recently is for sure something worth to take a closer look at. What do you think?
How is your personal sentiment? I mean, mine is didn't change much. I'm still locked up, not under 5 years, so I'm not to lie to you, but I'm still pretty chill about it. There's nothing I can do. How's your sentiments, your feelings?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the first dip for myself. And as you said, I'm locked. It has absolutely no effect on me. And I think it's very healthy for the overall market. Dips are in the game. It really puts the hacks from weak hands to more stronger hands. And I think many people just don't realize that. And especially also when the price goes up like crazy, like we saw it in Hex the other weeks. A little correction as of now is quite normal. I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly have the dates. Maybe the dip catcher can explain a little bit more later. But just 1-2 months ago, we were at 20 cents and we were freaking out, and now we're at 25, and everybody is becoming scared. So just zoom out a little bit, and everything is fine.
That's exactly what they're saying on Reddit. People are getting very nervous, opening up threads all the time on Reddit Hex, like, what is this? What's going on? And then people are, hey, just zoom out and chill. And I think, like you said, and like Richard Hart said, it's a future, not a bug. It's a future that price keeps dipping. And then we have this transformation from the patient one, the strong mind ones, to them coming from the weekends. Those are getting impatient. And I also had a talk today with a friend, and he told me, yeah, he's also a bit disappointed in Hex right now. And if he would have put it on into another crypto coin, he would have been better right now. And I told him, wow, like don't get discouraged. He has never even I told him, you're still getting the same amount of Hex, like your t-shirts, your 4 t-shirts plus the payout, let's say 6 Hex per day. You're still getting the same independently what the price does. And what he never did was multiply his t-shirts times the payout times the dollar course. So he did it for the first time, and he was actually very surprised, even though with the dip rate right now, he's getting a lot of money if you would convert it per month. So he was really surprised, and yeah, I could lift him up a little bit, which was nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the point. So some new Hexicans may forget that they, regardless of the price action, still get paid in Hex, and also the interest that you do on a daily basis accumulating till the end of your stake. So let's, as you mentioned, maybe in 5 years and 10 years, and only then the price matters in case you would like to cash out, let's say, for example, only your interest, and then only the price matters. So at the moment, it's just FUD in my opinion. But yeah, dips are opportunities. I always have to think about Ron Override, who was our first guest at Hex Grassroots. And he also mentioned that this is an opportunity and he really enjoys dips kind of, so he can buy more. And I'm feeling very good about this dips, I have to say.
And what's your prediction? It will keep going like that, or because they also say that like every 6 weeks, usually Hex went up quite a bit or doubled. Do you think we will see and continue this, and we will see a ramp up going on in early November, or what is your loose prediction?
I think it will bottom out. Just again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think it will be around maybe 20 cents. Maybe we'll see another dip down to 20, and then we will go up. I think it will also depend a little bit on news on Pulse Chain. How's the testnet going? Also, I think it will be a little bit signaling from bigger players in Hex, how they are dealing with their liquid Hex if they sell a little bit, so it may cause some panic. Yeah, I think it will be 20 cents is my best guess.
Okay.
But again, like I'm not affected. Everyone who thinks he missed the boat, there's an opportunity. No financial advice, obviously. Do your own research. You're responsible for your own money. But hey, it's 55% down from the all-time high, around 55%. So if I go to a shop and I would like to buy something, and there's a 55% discount, that would be nice.
But that's why I think we will not see, like my prediction, loose prediction. I also don't know, but I think we won't see that much more selling going on once we hit the 22, 21, 20 range, because big whales, they could have started selling off at 50, 40, 30, and I don't think we will see that much volume selling at 20. And then once the selling volume drops significantly, I think we can go up again quite quick.
That's also possible. Yeah. I mean, I can imagine that some people got a little bit weak because I think there's a new car out, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful car. Do you want me to show it?
Sure, yeah, let's bring it on. I think some of us may become weak, and that's why they sell their hard asset Hex for short-term feeling.
If you want to pull off a real Hex flex, I would advise you to look into this beautiful Mercedes SL. It was just announced today. I think it's absolutely stunning.
So it's a new Mercedes model, yeah?
The series itself has existed for a very long time. Most famously, the Mercedes SL 300 was a classic, and this is just the newest one. It will be released in spring next year. And the 8-cylinder, beautiful car. You can see here the Panamericana grille, which they had from the 50s ever since, and it's just beautiful.
Nice.
8 cylinders up to almost 600 horsepower, and starting probably from around 140 euros. So definitely not cheap, but if you have your Hex going for you, it's a nice thing. We can also see here the touchscreen. A special thing in this car is the touchscreen has 2 positions. You can tilt it in another position, because when you have no roof, you would have problems with the sun. And so in this car, it's actually very interesting. You can tilt this into 2 positions. So
nice. It sounds like you bought one.
I didn't buy one yet, but I definitely have my eyes on it. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Napa leather.
It looks really nice. Yeah, it looks really nice. Maybe some Hexicans got weak and already ordered it, but hey, my t-shirts are still working in the background, and it's still the same amount of them as yesterday.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, nice car, really nice car. It also has a really nice. I would love to see it in the Hex colors, like the Crypto Sparbook Audi R8.
Yeah. A bit instead of the R8, maybe you can get a Mercedes SL. Would be fun. And yeah, I wanted to show it to you because I know you're also a Mercedes fan, right?
Definitely. We have to support the locals. Cool. All right, nice. Yeah, what's new at Richard's Instagram? Do we have that? He's
Yep.
been posting quite little the past days, right?
It's been silent. And can you see the screen, the Instagram?
Yeah.
We see there is no story right here, so we can't show one this time. Last thing he posted was a 2-minute the trailer for the documentary. And yeah, other than that, not that much new content. Most important thing again here on Instagram, Richard Hart doesn't follow anybody. You see zero people that he follows. And because there are a lot of imposters on Instagram, especially on Instagram, they copy his content 1-to-1 and you would think it's him, but Richard Hart follows nobody. And also the imposters, they don't have this post where it says report imposters. There are many scams going on. They will try to direct message you. Yeah, don't fall for imposters. And
that's important, guys.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so probably he's very busy working, as he mentioned before. If I don't tweet much, I probably work a lot. So that's a good sign, right?
Yes. I mean, they had the meetup in Copenhagen, right? I enjoyed the live stream. It was again a very good live stream. Good coverage.
I think he did a lot of photos even by himself.
Oh, okay.
He did the stream by himself, and there was even a backup from Crypto Sparbuch. So I'm even pronouncing in the American way, because the Americans always say Crypto Sparbuch, but it's Crypto Sparbuch. Yeah, it was very good quality. And the appearance of Richard Hart was amazing. He took a lot of time to interact with the Hexicans who had the chance to join. They asked a lot of good questions, and I think also during the meetup he mentioned that potentially his next meetup may be in Norway or Sweden, in Oslo or Stockholm. And I think this may be the case because he already announced the upcoming meetup in December in London. So I think it makes sense if he just, let's say, spends time up north, right? So he doesn't have to drive to, I don't know, Estonia, back to Estonia, and then back to London, basically. So I think he will be in the area for a while. Maybe the Hamburg meetup will happen. Who knows?
Okay, if he goes back, yeah. But concerning the London meetup, was there a follow-up tweet or information? Or was there only this one tweet that we read out the last time?
It was only the one tweet as far as I know. But what was interesting is that he's looking for a real good big venue where there's enough space for everybody. Because I think already many Hexicans, especially from the UK, try to plan for this meetup. And there are many UK Hexicans alone. Maybe a lot from other countries will join as well. Potentially ourselves, right, Misha? And I think it may be an amazing event with
catering and stuff, right?
Exactly, yeah. Hexican girl tweeted, responded, if I remember correctly, that she may have something in mind that would be suitable. So yeah, I'm looking forward. It would be nice if we all can join.
Yeah, real grassroots style community. Helping to organize.
Speaking about grassroots, let's come to our today's guest. For me, he's a typical Hex Grassroots. He goes with the name on Twitter, Dr. Dipcatcher. I've been following him for a while. I always like his tweets, and therefore I asked him if he can join us and share his Hex story with us. So without further ado, let's bring him on. Please welcome Dr. Dipcatcher.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hey, man, welcome. Nice to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is exciting. I like that you guys are doing this.
Yeah,
awesome. Thank you very much.
What uni did you get your PhD in hexonomics?
University of New Mexico.
Nice. You answer.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Cool, man.
Yeah, we'll have to
Yeah,
start
again.
a Hexagon University.
Cool, man. Hey, you also have. I really like your shirt, man. Can you show it to us? Oh, what a hex flex! That's a real hex flex.
Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah,
man.
it's
Really
like that
cool.
old video of Richard where he was like, I can't wait to go to conferences. I'm gonna wear a shirt with a price chart, and he might need to get extra shirt the price chart.
Yeah. That would be so cool. Yeah, you have to do it as well, right? Once the dip is over, you need more space then for the green candles.
That's right. This will be outdated pretty soon.
Cool. Yeah, Dipcatcher, thanks again for joining us. As mentioned, I've been following you for a while, and I wanted to invite you to hear more about yourself. I think you're very popular within the Hex community, especially on Twitter. I'm not really sure if you have done a stream before. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that. Were you already guest at some other streams, maybe at Maddie Allen or at Hex Doctor or some other stream?
Yeah, so I have my own YouTube channel that I've done a lot of streams from. So Dipcatcher on YouTube, and then I've done a couple here and there, like one of the 24-hour stream leading into Big Payday.
Nice.
I was on that, and then I did a stream with Whales Only once. I've done one with Crypto Coffee. I haven't ever actually done like Discourse Syndicate, but yeah, I've kind of been on a couple of them. Here and there. I always tell myself I want to be streaming more, and so whenever someone asks me, I'm like, all right, this is a good opportunity.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, we're glad you joined us. Cool. Hey, and yeah, go ahead, next, Misha.
Yeah, I made this cheesy, stupid joke about the PhD and the university, and then you mentioned Hex University. Is it like because Funding Jim, he like actually wants to start a Hex University, right? Is that something you're in, or just the incident?
No, literally, it's all made up. Literally, there's no school.
Oh, okay.
There's no.
Okay. Okay, it would be funny if you would be like the first professor, the first chair in the newly found Hex University from Funding Jim. But you're not.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Are you aware about this program? Did you hear about it? And
I've heard a little bit about it, but I didn't know too much about that initiative.
Okay. Because if I recall correctly, it's some sort of initiative from Funding Jim to reinvest the gains you do with Hex. So he's into properties in I think Miami, and also he would like to then invite guests or participants, basically, of the Hex University, where they teach them something about investing, right, but also about personal lifestyle. How to network, how to meet maybe the potential partners and so on. So it's like kind of like a full service with an Instagrammable house. So yeah, very interesting actually. That starts that.
Yeah, that does sound really cool. Because I mean, I feel like that's something that everyone can stand to learn. Because like there's like a whole rabbit hole you can go down around learning stuff about Hex, but then some of those like adjacent things, like how to build a business, how to connect with people, those types of other skills. I think it's also really important to learn alongside the investing.
Exactly, and also how do you manage your assets? Where do you put your gains and that kind of stuff? And also taxes. So I think his program is geared more towards US people, but the topic in itself, like development, taxes, assets, I think there's a demand for more learning and knowledge. So it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, we will follow his program for sure. Cool. So maybe can you share a little bit how did you start with crypto? Maybe in general with cryptocurrencies. When did you get into the game? You could say, right? And then how you found out about Hex. We would love to hear about your Hex story. How it all started.
Yeah. So I got my start in crypto in 2017. I was So just, a little background on myself. I'm a software engineer. So I mainly focus on like very early stage startups. And so in 2016 and 2017, I was working on my first startup. It was a virtual reality camera and like a 3D photo sharing app. It was awesome, VR content sharing platform that we were building. And we were trying to figure out how to let people make money on their content. And so we started exploring using like a cryptocurrency for that. And so at that time, there was this ICO that was happening from a company in Berlin called Simple Token, and they were giving out these developer grants for people that were going to build on their platform. It was like a platform that you could, if you have an app, you could integrate a cryptocurrency into your app. And so I just connected with them, and then they ended up giving me this grant where they were, paying me, over the course of 2 years. In their cryptocurrency. It was called Simple Token.
Well, what was the name?
OST. OST was the ticker.
OST.
Yeah, and it was called Simple Token, and it's pretty wild because like I'd never done any investing. I didn't know anything about anything, and
oh wow,
the price went from like 6 cents to like $1.40, and then it pretty much just like died. Like it's almost at zero now. And so like over that course of 2 years, like that was like all of my startup's income was in this cryptocurrency. And so early on it was a lot of money. By the end of that grant, it was like $200 a month. And so that's how I kind of was thrown into the fire, because I had to take that that crypto, like I wasn't even thinking about it as an investment. That was like our income, that was our revenue. And so just learning how to take that revenue and then manage it in a way to allow us to pay for our app to get built. We had to pay for hosting, paying for these like 3D virtual reality cameras. And so
you built on top of their blockchain?
Yeah. So it all ran on Ethereum, and we never actually integrated it fully. It was way too hard to integrate. But it was pretty much just like it was almost like a side chain. It was like a layer 2 type of thing where you could have like a lot of like small, like fast transactions in your app, and then periodically it would be like settled on Ethereum. So it was actually, like they actually did a lot of really, meaningful stuff, but it's always hard for, for things to get traction, and the price was, and I think that whole experience really taught me about what makes the price go up and what makes the price go down. Because with Simple Token, when it launched like at peak, it launched in like really right around the same time Hex launched, but 3 years earlier. So it launched at that tail end of the 2017 bull run. And so it like caught wind from that last altcoin pump. And
so
but then like
pumped to $1.
Like that's when it went from like 6 cents to like $1.40, and then it just died over time. And the reason why was because one, I mean, just like the like speculative mania had kind of cooled down. People weren't just like aping into these altcoins, especially when Bitcoin started turning around. And then and then also there were so many people that got the coins for free, like me. Like, so I was on one of their developer grants. So like every month I was getting paid in it, and there was a whole list of other developers who were also getting paid.
But you had to live from it, right?
Yeah, and that was my company funding. So no one that was getting it for free was hoarding it. Whereas like people, they whether they got Hex for free, with the free claim, people hoard their Hex. They stake it for a long time. But like with this one where where we were getting paid in it, and like all the employees at Simple Token were getting paid. Like every month everyone's getting paid in it, and so just like every month is just like boom, 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 boom. Like that type of model where people are paid in the coin to work on it, that really hurts the price, because
especially like it reminds me my story in 2017 when I invested in some shitcoin, and they had like a non-profit foundation, right? And they had like over 100 employees. And first of all, if you're new, right, you think, oh, that's amazing. There are 100 people working to spread the word and so on, right? But they all got paid in their native token, and they have to dump it, right? Because their salaries in dollars, and they flew around the world to some conferences, and basically the price just kept dipping. So I learned it as well, that this non-profit foundations with hundreds of employees with a pre-mine, it's not a good thing. And your story basically just confirms that.
Yeah, definitely. You want people who are going to like market buy the coin and then hoard it till death. Like you want people to die with their coin. You don't want people to like be getting paid in it and then dumping it to go fly around the world, And so that experience, like, just like that really taught me a lot about, like really what makes a coin go up and down. Taught me just like all the ins and outs. Because at that time, I didn't even use MetaMask at that time. Like really MetaMask wasn't really around. And so it gave me kind of like all of the like hard skills, like how to set up a wallet, how to transfer, just how to do everything like with a blockchain. So then, when that all kind of came to, because that was like 2018 and 2019, that actually ended right when like my last like simple token, like monthly allocation, that came in literally like a month before Hex launched. And so
so it even continued long after.
Yeah, it was like a 2-year thing. Even though the price had died like 1 year in, I was still getting some, of that coin. And, but then, so by that time I had to, shut my startup down. And then I joined a different startup that was just like still another really early stage startup. It's a legal company. And then so I was just, because literally I was like dead broke. I had no money. I had to actually sell my truck because at that time the Bitcoin free claim was happening in Hex, where if you had Bitcoin you could get some Hex for free. And I literally had no crypto at all. I was truly dead broke. And so I sold my truck because I wanted to get Bitcoin for the free claim. And so that happened in 2019, and then just kind of patiently waiting for Hex. And so I was kind of plugged into Hex even since before it like the idea of being a blockchain CD kind of came about.
Yeah, but how did you learn from Hex? Then you had learned from it quite early, and you even decided to sell your property, your car, to get into it before the launch. I mean, that's a very bold move.
Yeah, I mean, because I'd really learned a lot from Richard Hart's YouTube. Like when I was, when I started getting that funding from Simple Token, and I had no idea about anything related to investing and like charts or anything. And so the people that I was just like learning about crypto from, there were two people in particular that I really learned a lot from. That's Trace Mayer. He was like the first person to recommend buying Bitcoin as an investment. When it was like 10 cents, he was recommending it. And he's one of the people that helped write a lot of the legislation that went into effect in Wyoming that made Wyoming kind of a safe haven for, crypto asset companies. And so he's really kind of on like the forefront of just crypto and specifically Bitcoin, to, be kind of making it like he was one of the early ones that really helped make it, like an investment vehicle, and then also like helping with some of the like financialization, and then like the helping iron out some of the the legal barriers to it. And so like he was one person that I really learned a lot from, but then also Richard Hart's YouTube I was really learning a lot from as well. And so
I mean, speaking about Trace Mayer, he started to show some shitcoins and he got really bad feedback for that, right? Do you know what's that?
So in one of my YouTube videos, I actually talk about this. But so pretty much he'd always, like, pretty much since when I started listening to him, I heard he would always be talking about like a new like privacy solution called Mimblewimble, and so like that had kind of always been something that he was talking about. And then like over time, the way he would talk about it was that like, he would say that it's unlikely that Mimblewimble gets forked into Bitcoin, so maybe it'll just exist outside of it, because of like, when the block size fork happened, that was really, like a really contentious event. And, and it's just from there really haven't been any forks in Bitcoin at all. Like that was like so traumatic for that community. And so like, his kind of stance on that kind of changed, where he's like, okay, well, this probably going to exist outside of it. And yeah, so he, when this coin, it's called Mimblewimble coin, came out, he was actually a part of it. Like, if you read that Mimblewimble coin website, it's like, oh, these are his words. Like, he probably wrote the website,
Okay.
And so, I actually like literally when he started shilling Mimblewimble coin, I bought some. Like,
that name is so funny.
Yeah, I mean, because he just anyone, and same with like Richard and Trace Mayer, like they're two people whose like free information that they've published online has delivered serious results for me. So like, of course I'll dabble in that, even though that the Mimblewimble didn't play out as a positive investment, but like the Bitcoin community really got upset about that. It's so weird. He was like, such a important figure. But I actually think that, he was kind of canceled, but literally like weeks before that incident happened, he even indicated on a live stream that he was going to be stepping away from like the public sphere.
True, because I haven't heard from him like for years, basically. Like, he's not active anymore, right? Or did I miss?
Yeah, he popped up on one interview a couple months ago, but yeah, I mean, on an interview with a guy named Steven Livera, he mentioned that in his words, he said that the first 10 years, that was the time for altruism, where he was going to be teaching people for free, but he said now that the Satoshis are getting more and more scarce, it's the time for competition. And so he's not going to be like training and educating people who are going to be taking coins that he thinks he should have. And so he even mentioned that he was going to kind of drop off. And then I think when that, like, all that backlash started happening because he was at a Bitcoin conference talking about Mimblewimble coin, I think he just took that as the opportunity to kind of step back. But yeah, I think he's still very active, and but just like not public.
I see. Okay. Yeah, he was a very important figure, especially 2017 and the years before. I remember him also quite well, together with Richard Hart, right? They were two of the key figures at this Bitcoin maximalist camp back then, together with, of course, like Tone and the other bunch. But yeah, Richard and Trace were two of the most influential for me as well. Yeah, I totally feel you here.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I came into contact with Hex, was just like, because other than Trace Mayer, I'd be listening to a lot of Richard Hart content, and because like early on, the idea was a coin that had a new type of mining, where rather than just like guessing numbers, looking for a magic number, you would be doing like mathematical modeling for for fluid dynamics and like other physics simulations. Like, that was the original idea for Hex. It was called computational fluid dynamics coin. And so that was literally the idea early on. And so that was kind of what it was. And then over time, it evolved into, what it is now. And what I really, really liked about that and was just kind of, because, I'm an entrepreneur, I work in startups, and, like kind of like, where you're taking something that's like brand new and then like doing all the things to be able to like release it to the world. And usually the thing you end up releasing is like not what you started with. And so just seeing Richard do that, like, fully in public, like he's just like in the Telegram groups, talking through like, these developments, and, on his YouTube channel and on Twitter. And so just like seeing, seeing someone just, be building towards something, and then, realizing that was probably not the right path. And even though, a lot of effort had gone into that path, being able to like switch to like something that was good, that he thought was going to work, and then it actually played out. I really appreciated, just like seeing that whole progression, and that really gave me a lot of respect for Richard, because, like building stuff is really difficult, and it takes a long time. And, just seeing him just like stick with it, overcome challenges, and then, get it done, really to perfection. I like, just as like a, like an entrepreneur, like I really look up to him in that regard. And so,
especially, it's also very noble from his side that he realized in the middle of the process that the CFD token would not work out, and he still could maybe launch with an ICO or some similar concept, grab the money, and then it may not work out like in the 2017 ICO mania, but he literally just stopped, maybe did a loss because he invested in some money. So it also, he deserves some respect for actually stopping the project when he realized it would probably not work out.
Yeah, definitely. And it kind of makes, like, because, one, I mean, just that whole CFD thing would have been really difficult. Like, that's like a whole undertaking, is like, okay, building a system that like tracks how much simulations you do and like turning that into mining, and like that's a whole other thing. And none of that has anything to do with price appreciation. Like, if anything, that just makes the price go down. And so kind of, having that awareness to hone in on the qualities of a crypto asset that make the price go up. I think that's really the big innovation. It's not like a technical innovation. It's really like a design, or like an economics design innovation. The whole like, staking, where when you're, because nothing else in crypto has that really, where like when you're staked, you're actually locked in. Like everything else that you can stake, you can freely end stake and get out. But
definitely.
And I think supporting the coin, I think, really helps the price.
I think many people still don't also grasp the difference between, because there's a lot of staking coins, right? But the actual lock that you locked for years, designed by the smart contract, is a huge differentiator from other staking coins where you just loosely lock them. You can always unlock them and there's no real penalty to it or something. So I think this differentiator is still not very clear to the masses or to the crypto community, that always asking questions, okay, but there are other staking coins, what's the difference? So this is one aspect that I would also like to highlight.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of, why, I mean, not just for that reason, but in general, the kind of broader crypto community, they really weren't, like crypto Twitter did not nail Hex. Like a lot of like crypto native people really missed the boat because it wasn't like what they had grown to expect. And whereas like, like most of the people that I brought into Hex that have had like literally outstanding performance, like performance that they literally could never dream of, that was the first crypto that they'd ever even thought of, was Hex. And so like, I think that like, Hex, like, because it's so different, and, like the like mainstream crypto people didn't really latch onto it, but like newcomers to crypto actually were really, tuned in with, that sales pitch.
And what do you think were the main differentiators for the crypto community, which made them think that this is a scam, or they didn't grasp the concept? Can you list some of them?
Yeah, well,
I think one would be, for example, that it's actually finished, right?
Yeah, that too. Like, no roadmap, no white paper, like that. People are like shocked that's even a thing. But I mean, even outside of that, like I've actually dug in a little bit to this, and it's actually a pretty crazy topic. But the whole, Richard Hart is a scammer and like Hex is a scam rumor, and like it actually all started in a Bitcoin Cash Reddit thread where it was like a couple days after Richard had gone on. I think it was with Roger Ver or one of these other guys that was like promoting the like Bitcoin Cash, like the big block scaling solutions. He'd had one of these streams where he just like debated him, and so like right after that, you see something pop up in the Reddit thread where it's like, notorious criminal Richard Hart, like literally, like you just have to look it up, but it's just like this, very slanderous Reddit thread where like where it has links, like he's like tied to Panama criminals, and you click the link and it's like, and like where the article actually says American investor Richard Schuler was robbed by these Panama. So literally the article is about him getting robbed. And so like, but they're just like, slandering him in that thing. And so like, that was actually the seed of the whole rumor where, where it was, published there. And literally there's an account on Reddit where their only posts that are either on like porn Reddit threads, or they're copy pasting Richard Hart is a scammer. It's like one person literally was like spreading these rumors. And then when Hex was like starting to come out, like that was like the only like search history like on Google was like to these Reddit threads. And so like it all just started with just like literally a Bitcoin Cash community conspiracy theory, and it just kind of stuck, you know, because people are kind of lazy, and then people are always looking for a reason why something is gonna fail.
Exactly.
People just latched onto that, and you know, a lot of people lost, you know, millions of dollars because of that. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Half a year ago, when I shielded to my friends, it was only this Reddit thread coming up, Richard Hart, the scammer. Like that was the number one thing on Google, and I think it changed. Like it's not that hard anymore. And I want to come back to the point where you said you were following Trace and Richard Hart, like even before Hex launched. So I assume the contents and the videos Richard Hart was giving out was resonating with you, right? So you like the contents actually, and it resonated with you. And now you're in a finished product where you already liked it before, and you followed the whole development process of it. You were with it, like even the fluid coin that didn't work out. So it must be nice for you to be in this product, not only be OG, but also have this confidence that you found something that resonated with you even before it launched.
Yeah. I mean, that's really, you know, it's almost like I feel really lucky that like that's just what the YouTube channels that I happened to watch. You know, like I could have watched BitBoy, you know, and that could have been my crypto guy that I learned from and had, you know, miserable performance. You know, and so I do feel pretty lucky that the things that really resonated with me.
But that's also good from you, like a good performance, so to speak, of you, because you watched it, it resonated with you. You must have found it interesting and good and decided to keep following it up. And some people, they see the first two videos of Richard Hart and it doesn't resonate with him. They only see the outside layer, the Louis Vuitton, and dislike it, but they don't pay as much attention maybe to the contents. They cannot maybe grasp it, you know. I don't want to be mean, but maybe they cannot catch it, but you did, and so good for you.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of why, you know, like Hex, it's an IQ test, but it's also an EQ test.
Yeah.
You know, like there's the IQ side of it is like, okay, like how does this inflation model work? You know, who's earning the inflation, who's paying the inflation, you know, what incentives does that create?
Yes.
But then there's a whole EQ side of it where it's like, okay, like, you know, like does the founder's personality like or style or like, you know, vocabulary, like people that are like where that's the thing that kind of like interferes with their ability to, you know, measure the, you know, like the financial you know, qualities of the asset, where they start blending in these things where it's like, you know, they look at someone, they don't like what they're wearing. That really means they don't like who they are. You know, if you look at someone and you're like, I don't like this person, what you're really saying is I don't like myself. And so people who are like, you know, facing these like internal struggles with themselves, and then they like express it in like hatred towards someone else, like their EQ is all messed up. And so a lot of people just, you know, they missed Hex because they failed the EQ test.
And
you know,
EQ is emotional intelligence?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, and it cost them, right? Like if you say, oh, I don't like it, I'm going to turn it off, you know, it could cost you.
Yeah, especially if the reason why you think it's bad is because you think that the guy who made it is weird because he wore a top hat in his old videos. Like that's literally why a lot of people missed out on Hex, is because they're like, who's this guy? And you know, that's just, you know, like they're lost, and that, you know, that's what they have to
you know how I could pursue one friend who I onboarded. He was always like, man, it looks like a scam, it's 100% a scam. And I was like, dude, it looks so much like a scam. Can you not think that maybe other people also think it's a scam? Or maybe even Richard Hart himself notices it looks like a scam. And when I told him that, he started to think, and yeah, it's so over the top. He probably must think himself it looks a bit weird. And that's when he noticed, okay, maybe it's, you know, advertising, just gaming, just marketing. That turned him around. This other perspective.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you know, you can't blame people in crypto for like having that, you know, attitude where like, you want to, because if you just said yes to everything that came your way, you will get scammed, because like there's tons of scams. So like that's the hard thing that, where, you kind of have, you can't really blame people for like having that like initial like defense thing where like, because I mean, that's actually not a bad way to go about life, but just like, having the open-mindedness to like try to assess things for what they are, and like not just listen to the first opinion you had on it, but actually like try to experience it yourself. Like, like where, you yourself should go, read the guides and read the contract, and, maybe try it out. And so I think a lot of people that just like latched on to that, like, oh, this is like, where it's okay if like your first reaction is like, oh, this is scam, because that's like a good defense technique. But if like that's
especially if you the Petra have been following Richard Hart long enough, so you also for sure noticed that he does not have any ads on his channel. He does not have any sponsors that sponsor the YouTube channel. He doesn't have any links in his description for exchanges or something. And all the other YouTubers I noticed, they all have an agenda. And this is what I realized in the very beginning, that he just like tells the truth because he doesn't have anything to lose. He has no sponsors that he could like scare off or make mad. Has no ads and so on. So he must be legit. From like this was a sign for me that he's actually quite legit, and it is regardless of what he's wearing, what vocabulary he's using. So this was a sign for me that this also, I have to look deeper into it. Was that something that you also noticed back then?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just like him having, like where I first kind of came in contact with Richard was, his like YouTube channel and his Telegram chats, and just seeing that like, he spends so like all this time, like, just like giving free information and educating and like, engaging with people and like discussing like, really important topics, like not
yes.
The
like, information of him was so good always, right? Not just
and also the way that he just like built community, like, and just building rapport and like building relationships. It's like if you're scamming, like the thing that's like, you see across all the scams in crypto is like it's like a fly by night thing where like they jump on the scene, they drum up a lot of hype, and then they pull the rug, and it's like a 2-week process. Like not like a where like the where Richard like had his Telegram chats and his YouTube channel with like no plan of launching a coin for years, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna launch a coin, and then there's really like a 2-year development process to where Hex became what it is now. And so like, okay, what scammer is going to spend 2 years like iterating, going down one path? Oh, better idea. Now we're going to do this. And then like, all doing this in public, like it just doesn't, like a scammer is going to like come out of the woodworks, take the money and run, like not like build something for so long, kind of tie your personal reputation to it. And then, so like for me, like that, like I never even once thought that Hex was going to be a scam, because I'm like, just like seeing someone like build rapport and relationships with people for years and then launch something that didn't seem like something that a scammer would do. Like there's certainly the the chance that Richard could sell his coins, but even that wouldn't be a scam. Like that was just someone, because like every coin is valid in my opinion. Like like even though Richard doesn't sell his coins, like in my perspective, he has every right to sell anything he wants. Like those aren't my coins; they're his coins. If I want to control what happens to those coins, I need to be in possession of them. And like I have no expectation that anybody's coins are going to do what I want them to do. They're like you got the keys, you have control over them, and so like but like I think over time the like. Just like all the risks around Hex have kind of been eliminated. Like people early on, like in the first couple months, when the price was so low, that's because the risk was really high. People were like, okay, is this a scam? Like it just launched, like, but then over time is, the risk of it being a scam kind of went away. Then there was like kind of the only risk was, is it going to work? And so like after the first year launch, like there was a lot of risk. Like was Big Payday going to have some inflation bug? something gonna stop, like after like that initial launch phase, was something gonna break? You didn't know that, but then after it ended, and it continues on, then a little bit less, there's a little bit less risks, like the price can go up.
Yes.
And then now I think with the Pulse launch, because then really the only risk in Hex is exchange rate risk. Are people going to sell faster than they buy? And so now, that's like the only looming risk, but that's like fine, it's like that's the way that commodities work. But then like seeing like how like the Pulse has kind of evolved, where what Pulse really proved to me was, if Richard wants to generate money, he's not going to sell his Hex. He's going to launch a new coin. And so like, that whole incident really made me like, even like I've always thought maybe there's a chance that at some point he could be selling some, but that incident actually made me fully think that he's probably never going to sell any of his coins, because like the amount of money that he could take possession of through the Pulse launch was more money than he could actually get out of Hex if he attempted to sell and pull the rug. Like he really couldn't get that much out. And so I think that's a big reason why the price kind of really ran up after the Pulse sacrifice, was because the market kind of came to a realization that that maybe the chances of Richard selling his Hex are even lower now, because
I mean, if he's selling, I believe him when he said in the meetup that he's in for the glory, for the legacy. He wants to have the best asset, the best crypto, and from his personality and from what I saw from him, I believe him that he's on this way and not necessarily selling his Hex, even though he had mined Bitcoins back then.
And the indicator for that as well is, again, that he has a very popular YouTube channel and he has no ads. He could have made money with that, with some sponsorships. And and he also said that he was already rich before even Bitcoin was invented. And I can imagine that if you are very wealthy and you get used to this wealth, that you really are looking for legacy, to have an impact in the world, that people remember you when you're gone. And this is my belief, that if he would just hypothetically, right, like if he would be the origin address, if the origin address would just move in that scenario 1 Hex, it would lose a lot of confidence from the community. And it doesn't make sense, because first of all, I think the legacy is way more important to him, and second of all, he was already rich. Third of all, the origin address, whoever that is, right, also collected a lot of ETH back then, which was back then already a lot of money. And then the price appreciation from $200 during the adoption amplifier phase to $4,000 made him maybe a billionaire. So
did somebody ever track that? Did the ETH move away from the OA?
So it's kind of hard to actually like really know how much that, because like if you imagine like, because the ETH that went into the adoption amplifier, it went through like there was like 2 addresses. There was like the like deposit address, and then there's something called the flush address. That's where the coins would go from. They'd go from one to the other. And then the flush address, it was sending the ETH to Binance. It was sending it to other address. It sent a bunch of transactions that were 1,337 ETH. And so like, that Ethereum, what I think maybe, I have no idea what actually happened, but I think that, some of that probably went to the developers that helped build Hex. And
but
so
ETH,
like,
right?
Yeah, the ETH. And so,
which is legit, by the way, right? If you pay for a car, the dealer's obviously gonna pay for, I don't know, electricity and HR.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I mean, in regards of Hex, it's still ETH, right? It has absolutely no impact on Hex, because no Hex was used to pay.
It was ETH, and then he was maybe sending it, paying the developers. And if you were a developer and you just worked on this thing that is awesome, you're probably going to buy some. And so like when people were trying to like triangulate like ETH coming in like to the adoption amplifier, and then like ending up back in the adoption amplifier, those like one, it's like, there's nothing fishy at all about that. Even if it was just Richard, getting more of it, like, that you can't
Exactly.
control what happens. There's no like that whole concept of no expectations is really important. Even outside, which we can talk about later, but like, like the ETH, whether it was like the Richard or any related entity that was just like buying more of it, or just like the developers that he paid were then buying more of it, like that's like that's just kind of part of the game. And if you're a developer working on that, like, why wouldn't you buy some, and and so like I think that, like, kind of going back to like that whole topic of like why people thought Hex was a scam or something, like it's so funny that like like all the haters were always like, oh, like you're just giving your ETH to Richard, like you're just giving your ETH up. But like if you think about it, nobody who participated in the adoption amplifier contract, everybody who did that is up like 40x. So like they're 40 times or more like better off than having just like held that ETH. And so like it is pretty funny that like and also I think that early on people thought that the Ethereum going into the contract was somehow part of the certificate of deposit. And I think that's like a big misunderstanding that people had, where they called it a scam. They're like, oh, you're sending in the ETH and you're getting these worthless tokens, but then they didn't realize that it's like, you're getting the thing that, that people are going to demand in a stronger way than Ethereum.
So definitely.
And like you said, somewhere maybe missing the IQ or EQ. And somewhere maybe too critical, but I think it's a continuum. People that are very open for something and people that are very critical of something. And maybe if you wanted to get in and be an OG, you needed to be in the sweet spot range of these two bipolar things, this continuum, being very critical, but also being very open. And maybe better neither be on the opposite, but like in the sweet spot, and then it resonated with you and then you got in. That's how I see it.
You're absolutely right. It's like, you don't want to just be like so open that you're just like spreading yourself thin across all types of things, but like, you want to have a, you want your perspective to change. I mean, even Hex really changed my perspective. Like before then, I was pretty much just like, because I like that experience that I had with Simple Token, where like this altcoin, like I thought I was rich and then I got wrecked. Like that whole experience, I was like, okay, well, like, let's just hone in on Bitcoin, like, and so I was really kind of mainly focused on Bitcoin only. And then when Hex came around, it really changed my perspective that like other coins can go after that use case of, like a long-term savings or like a hoarding use case. Like that's like Bitcoin's main thing. Like, the transaction piece is like secondary. The main reason why Bitcoin is valuable is because people die with it. Like people hoard it for years. And
Doctor, this is what I wanted to ask you actually, because for example, I made the experience that after the 2017 mania, I also became quite a Bitcoin maximalist. I became very allergic towards any other coin because I experienced this pump and dump, right? Like yourself. So what I wanted to ask you is, when you then heard about Hex, even though it came out from Richard Hart, were you also a little bit, like you could say, deaf or ignorant a little bit because you had this Bitcoin maximalist and this bad experience from 2017? Or were you already from this very start, from the very, very first time you heard about Hex, you were open-minded, or were you a little bit sleepy on the idea, first of all?
I was more open-minded because I had, spent, by then like a year watching Richard Hart's videos. And so like, I was already more receptive to information that was coming from him. So like, had I just heard about Hex from just like someone else, I probably wouldn't have been as receptive. But because like, someone that I had already gotten a lot of value from was now telling me about his plans and like what he was working on, and I was able to see that happen, I was a lot more receptive of something new.
And then, were you also active in the Telegram chats back then, talking about the ideas? And also, you mentioned you're a software developer. Maybe you also got a little bit into the technical Telegram chats as well. Was that the case?
So or? I was in. I can't remember when I joined the Hex chats. It was when it was still Bitcoin Hex. So I don't, and I wasn't too like active in the discussion. And then closer to when Hex was launching, I joined the developer chat, and then got invited to like the GitLab and saw the code that was before it launched. So I was like, okay, like I think this is legit. Like there's nothing fishy here.
Nice.
And just seeing the discussion in there kind of qualified that for me. But yeah, I mean, luckily, I was more receptive to Hex, and really where Hex kind of helped change my perspective was that like the reason that I had really latched onto Bitcoin was because I thought that like a fixed supply money where like a total there's 21 million I thought that was like the best and like the only type of monetary policy that was gonna work. And so that's like, even I was really not so into Ethereum, even though Ethereum was actually the first coin I ever bought. But like I was more into Bitcoin than Ethereum because it's like, oh, like the monetary policy in Ethereum is too loose, like it can kind of change at developer's whim. Like there's no certainty in that. And, I thought it was inflationary, so I thought that was bad. But then where Hex really changed my perspective on just that whole topic of like cryptocurrency supply, inflation, and like monetary policy was that like, even though Hex has a, fixed 3.69% inflation rate, what that inflation rate is doing is it's really just like reallocating the supply from one group to the other. Where like, if you think about it, like for any coin ever, like rather than thinking about the supply as how many total units there are, instead of that, you should just think of it all as like a single pie, where it has, everything has a supply of one, where like, the supply is always 100%. And then, then like from within that, like, one group of people is whoever, like if there's inflation, those people are getting the inflation, and it comes at the expense of the people who are not getting the inflation, and so like in Bitcoin, the miners get the inflation, and that comes at the expense of every other person holding Bitcoin, Same with Ethereum. But then like in Hex, the stakers are getting the inflation, and the people who are paying that inflation are the people who are holding liquid. And so even though the total supply grows, it's really just like reallocating from one group to the other. And the way that, and because longer pays better, it is reallocating like that percentage of the whole. It's like punting it out into the future, because and so like that really was like the flip that switched in my brain. Was it like, okay, like a fixed supply money, like it doesn't need to be fixed, and doesn't even need to have a low inflation rate. The only thing that matters is who's earning the inflation and who's paying the inflation. And so like that's really where I'm like thankful that Hex kind of just like really changed my perspective on like what good monetary policy is.
Nice.
And that's really what I, where I'm really thankful that I grew as a result of Hex.
Yeah, I think the right people are now getting rewarded, not those who will dump it, but those who are in for long, and especially those who are in for especially long, they will get even more rewarded. Like you said, longer pays better. So that's definitely nice.
Yeah, and it's pretty wild. So a couple weeks ago, I made a Twitter bot called Max Length Stake. I hit my monthly limit on like I use a tool called Zapier, and I hit my monthly limit. So like it's been off for a couple days, but it tweets every time there's a max length stake, and then every day
I think I saw it. It's
yours. Yeah. So I made that the other day, and hold on a second, my dog's whining.
Nice, that's amazing.
Yeah, I like this, man.
So yeah, what was really interesting to me was just like how, like, I mean, even though like, I knew that people are always max length staking, but like it's really like about 50 people a day are doing a max length stake, and it's between 500,000 and 2 million hex per day are max length staked, and that really like is pretty amazing. I think the last time I tweeted was on the 25th. I just need to like upgrade my plan so I can turn the bot back on. But like
that's yours, right?
Yeah, that's it. And so just like I like watching these like that really emphasizes just how committed people are. Like what other coin are people committing to be a holder of for 15 years? like nobody who's buying Bitcoin, you know, is committed to that. And most people that hold Bitcoin today probably will not be holding Bitcoin in 15 years.
And it says estimated yield here as well. So you're giving the information, what address, what public key, staked how many hex for obviously max length, the days, and minted how many t-shirts. And the estimated yield is then with the current payout per day, or is there a model behind it?
Yeah. So on my site, hex.cash, it does the estimate based on like that estimate is its current daily payout per t-share. And because you don't know what it's going to be, over time, I like the things that push that daily payout up is just like the inflation. It's like every year it's growing by 3.69%. And so like the amount of coins that's being paid out through that, like the staking, that's always growing. But at the same time, over time, more people are staking and more people are staking for longer. And so that like pushes it down. So the thing pushing it up is the inflation. The thing pushing it down is the amount of like new stakers coming in.
Well, that makes it very interesting from a game theory perspective, because this is a future that is not in your control, but in the control of the other players. Like even though it's trustless, it's you and the smart contract, it's no middleman, you and the blockchain, but the payout per t-shirt in Hex varies on the actions and the behavior of other participants. So like if you think about it, that's crazy, like all these factors coming in.
Yeah.
The rabbit hole goes deep.
And that's why I like to estimate it with like by assuming that the current daily payout sticks, because like that's a reasonable guess that you could make, is that the the average yearly growth of new stakers is going to be like 3.69%. Like that's like a modest estimate, and so like if the stakers grew by 3.69% while the supply grew by 3.69%, that would kind of cancel it out and make today's daily payout stay constant. And so, but there's other website, like the website, I think it's called stakehex.today. They have a different model for estimating, where they have a pretty cool user interface for like where you can like estimate how much you're going to earn. And that one, it's like on my website, it's a very conservative estimate. The other one has some serious moon math baked in on stakehex.today. Yeah. And so, I
mean, if you even think further, right, before the new stakers can cancel out the payout, they have to buy up the hex. So it causes price appreciation. So it's a win-win situation either way.
Yeah, that's right. And especially, I mean, even if you look back in history, some of the largest price moves have come when people literally market buy hex on Uniswap and then immediately stake it for like 10 or 15 years, just like taking that supply that would, because a lot of the coins that are traded, like that same hex that is bought could then be sold like later that week. So, maybe that big purchase like pushes the price up, but then when it's sold, it pushes it right back down. But like just having that, kind of like one-way street where, people are buying the coins and then punting them out into the future, that like really like seeing that in action in the liquidity pools is like truly amazing, and that's really what I try to highlight in this max length stake thing, is that like those coins that were, bought on Uniswap, those are not going to be sold in a long time. And so that's like really the important piece there.
Definitely.
Can we talk one more time about, you mentioned, so right now about 10% is staked, right, of the hex. So let's say in the future more people are staking, we're onboarding and people start to stake even more. So then we have more other players, the amount of hex per day would drop, right? Because we have more stake percentage. And what is the factor that's pushing an increase in hex payout per t-shirt?
Is just the inflation, because that daily payout per t-share is the total number of newly minted coin, or so not all of them are minted, because some get allocated and then they're minted when the stake ends, but just like the total number of coins that have ever been minted in Hex. It's called the allocated supply, divided by, or times 0.0369 divided by 364. So like every day, 1/364th of that 3.69% annual inflation is like part of that like total daily payout. And then that's divided amongst all the T-share. So just like as the total supply increases at that 3.69% rate,
the
total number of coins that is distributed amongst all the T-share holders, that's growing. So
and
like
that every year, right? So also the inflation is compounding, because next year we take the whole supply and then multiply it again.
It's actually, this was actually shocking. I remember months ago someone had tweeted like a little quiz poll. They're like, is Hex inflation linear, constant, or exponential? And you had to think about it. It's actually exponential, which is pretty shocking. People are like, you'd think that'd be a bad thing, but like it's just like kind of like more of like a matter of fact. We're like, yeah, if it's growing at 3.69% per year, like that is exponential, because next year it's a larger pool, and so that 3.69% of that larger amount is going to grow every year. And so like that whole concept, that's why in my name, PhD Hexonomics, and just in general, like in crypto, my favorite thing to analyze is is like that, like the inflation rates of different coins. And so like three that are actually pretty interesting to like compare are Hex, Bitcoin, and Dogecoin, because like in Bitcoin, it has, where like every year the inflation rate cuts in half through the halvening as it approaches a fixed number. And you can compare that to Dogecoin, which the percent is not fixed, but the total, like the daily number of new coins minted is constant. So like over time, that like I don't know what the number is. Say it's like a million new Dogecoin are minted every day. Like every day that goes on, that million is a smaller and smaller percent of the whole. So like in Dogecoin, the inflation rate, like the total supply is always growing, but the inflation rate is always is like approaching like a smaller number. Whereas in Hex, it's 3.69% per year. And so like those are kind of three different like monetary policies, amongst cryptos that, I mean, it kind of proves that like really anything can work. It's really just a matter of who's buying, really, but like I think those are like three distinct like types of like inflation schedules. And I think that like what makes Hexes so strong is that it's like a really powerful like recirculation of the coins, because like right now like the OA and like some of the other large liquid holders, they own a majority of the supply. But maybe after 2 15-year cycles, we may start seeing newer addresses that have more Hex than those ones did. And so like it's not just like we're like, it's almost like the economy just kind of like recirculates the purchasing power. Like it kind of ages out older liquid holders. You can maintain your position by staking, but like so that's what I think is really powerful about Hex, is that it just kind of like recirculates the economy, into like the newer active participants. And so, compared to some of the other ones where it's just like fully deflationary.
And as you mentioned that it's also important who gets the inflation, and in Hex the inflation goes to the most loyal hexicans or stakers who stakes the longest and the most. So
they have the biggest growth relatively seen, the loyal ones. That's also a good feature, I think.
And it really motivates people, and that's also kind of another powerful thing about Hex, is that like because it's a complete product, like it, in order for somebody to contribute, really the only thing that you can contribute is marketing. And that's that's what you guys are doing here on your YouTube channel. It's what all the other YouTube streamers do. That's what every on Twitter, like it doesn't, like other cryptocurrencies, in order to contribute, you have to be like a blockchain engineer. You have to have some other like really really difficult skill to do in order for you to contribute. But in Hex, because it's complete, everybody can contribute to the thing that really matters, which is marketing. Like all these other coins, like some people get really into things like Cardano because they're like, oh, look at all this like engineering they're doing all this formal math, they're doing all this stuff, like they're all this wacky shit, and you're just like, what, like, is that making people hit the buy button? And that's not. And so like, like that's where I think like we're Hex, because like we don't need to like build some new like blockchain platform. We don't need to do all this stuff. We really just need to focus on marketing, which is the thing that drives return on investment. Like that, I think, is just like a really powerful thing about it. Is like anyone can contribute. You can tell a friend and get,
Doctor, maybe you can share your experience as well, because back in 2017, when I joined early 2017, when I read the white papers of some of the shitcoins, I thought I discovered fire, and I was like, whoa, I'm the best investor, then I got burned. So I think also, for example, if you did this experience in 2017 and then you kind of realize more afterwards, okay, all this development, fancy blockchain stuff and so on, it sounds very clever, but in the end, like, we are all here for price appreciation. And even if it gets built, it doesn't mean that the price goes up. This is the most important thing, right? So did you also, how was it for you back in 2017? Were you also lured in by this new development and like technology and so on?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I would read those white papers. You'd be like, oh my gosh, look at all these partnerships they have. Look at all these developers. Like, and then when I was actually one of those partners, because like my startup was a partner with, it's like, oh, the partners, they get the coins for free and then they sell them. Like, that's not helping anybody. And so like, that I definitely, experienced that, where, the things that, like, and I think that what that really comes down to is that, like, a lot of people, when they're first getting into crypto, they try to treat it like the stock market, where like in the stock market, you're like looking at the quality of the companies, you're looking at the leadership, you're looking at, their earnings and like, all the business stuff that they're doing. But in reality, you should really look at cryptos like commodities, where, it's not so much based on the like activity, like the business activity. It's really based on supply and demand. And so that's, that was a big realization that experience helped me gain, was that like cryptos are not stocks, and they really shouldn't be treated like that. You can really ignore everything and just look at the price chart, which is the demand, and you look at the supply chart, like the inflation chart, and that's the supply. And like, that's literally all you really need to look at. Like, all the other stuff is kind of secondary.
Yeah, and especially if we may not forget about the very aspect or the very reason for cryptocurrency, why it actually got invented, right? To get rid of middlemen. I think it's also a little bit pathetic that somebody who calls Hex a scam, especially, and then promotes coins that are very centralized. I understand that there's a centralized party needed for regulatory reasons, for the on-ramp, for example, fiat to crypto. But then if I hear people just leave their coins on the exchanges and they don't take custody, and then criticizing Hex, I think it's also ironic and pathetic a little bit, because Hex really pushes the philosophy of cryptocurrency, right? That this your own private keys, you take custody, there's no middleman. Also in regards of exchanges, right? It doesn't push for centralized exchanges, even though it would help the price, I guess. But Uniswap is the most popular trading exchange for Hex, which is also decentralized. MetaMask is used as the custodian wallet or staker app. So these aspects are very important also, and I think this what makes also Hex or distinguish Hex from most other coins.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like, that whole concept, and just, I mean, that's one of the core tenets of like the Hexican culture, is like self-custody of the keys, no middlemen. And like that's something that's foreign to a lot of people in crypto. Like they want to like send their coins to the custodian who's going to give them like 3% yield, and like, all these things. Whereas like the default nature of Hex, like with everything, I mean, like from, part of it was, like the gatekeeping, kept us off the major exchanges, but that actually turned into a blessing. But it was really in line with, everything, like Uniswap came around at the right time, and really was in line with like that, that just that culture of like self-custody. And that's really important. And then also the, like with even the staking mechanism, like other platforms that you can like stake your coins, like what was that what was it yesterday? Cream someone figured out some exploit and they took like $100 million of altcoins.
Yeah.
And so like when you're staking your altcoins in, or any coin in one of these like money market like lending protocols, like you're not trusting them with a middleman, but you're still like whatever contract you deposited them in, that's the middleman, even if which is probably controlled by an admin key. So you're really trusting them to a middleman, and so like that leaves them susceptible to being stolen in that way. Whereas in Hex, when you stake your coins, they're actually burnt. So like nobody is in possession of them. And so like that's like a key difference between the Hex staking versus other staking, is that even in Hex, the staking has no middlemen. There's no middleman or middle contract, whatever you want to call it.
Amazing.
Like the coins are burnt. But in other staking, your coins can be stolen, and we see it happen literally every week.
I have one more question, Doc. So we talked about supply, demand, inflation, right? And I want to get back one more time to the behavior of the other participants in the system, because it influences our own results. So let's assume, for the sake of the argument, the staked percentage goes up to, I don't know, 20-25%. So a lot of people are staked, actually. So scenario one, what could happen, because now so many people are suddenly staked, we could see people in absolute numbers making more mistakes. So we have more people in stake, so we see people making more mistakes, like emergency end staking, and because numbers go up, so numbers of this unfortunate event could rise. So but we would profit, like the staker class would still profit from it in terms of more hex per day. Another scenario is it goes up to 20-25% being staked, and everyone is getting educated, and everyone plays super good game theory and stakes really long. Nobody is emergency unstaking. So my first question, what do you think is more likely to happen? And second, also in the second scenario, I think we are all profiting from it. Even though numbers of hex per day go down, we have now more participants who are locked in for a really long time. So either way, we are winning, either more hex per day or more participants locking in for a really good long time. That's just something that came to my mind. And
and that's I guess you kind of laid out like two of the scenarios, like with more stakers, the daily payout's going to go down, but also maybe it's just like a larger pool of people to potentially emergency end stake. So like that's one thing that can kind of help maintain those figures. But I mean kind of like right now what's the like for an average stake, like it's like 38% or something. Like I think right now we're there are some glory days going on where I don't know if like I don't know how long we can expect such a high yield to be taking place, because like right now that takes place because the largest liquid holders, as a marketing technique, they want the APY to be as high as possible. And like they don't, if you're like the largest holder, you're a billionaire in Hex, like what is earning a little bit more going to do for you? When like maybe the marketing message of 40% APY is going to bring in more people, which is going to amplify the value of your Hex more so than just like you yourself staking would. So like I think that like over time, just like as the large liquid holders that are kind of being diluted diluted to the stakers, and then maybe those stakers like start restaking. I do think that that number is going to approach kind of what you said, around like 20%. But that'll be over 8 to 15 years, maybe even longer. So like you have that going on, and also I mean just over time, like I expect the staking figures to continue. Or like to even increase, so more stakers and longer average stake, because like every day that goes by, you can see because right now I think it's day 697. So like today for the first time we saw a 697-day stake end, and we could see with our eyes the results from that. So every day, like a longer and longer stake becomes real, and like where you can see like, oh, this 700-day stake produced this result. I want to do a 700-day stake.
Yeah.
And then, in a couple of years, it'll be like, oh wow, this 1,000-day stake, produced that. I'm going to do 1,000 days. So like every day that goes on, you can see like a longer and longer stake prove itself. And so like,
the more days pass by, also the higher, maybe you can comment on that as well, the higher the chance that the T-share rate increases, right? Because I think maybe you can explain that a little bit again. So every time a stake ends, the smart contract, the Hex smart contracts calculates if the sum of the interest plus the principal plus the interest that was gained with the stake could reach the same amount of T-shares when it stakes for the same amount of days. And if it would get more T-shares, it increases the T-share price, you could say. And my question is, do you know if it then adjusts the T-share price so it gets the same amount of T-shares, or is it like 5% below the original amount of T-shares? Do you notice how much does it adjust?
I think it adjusts. That's actually a good question. I don't know, like on that, like I don't know if it like sets it to where like you could get the same number.
Yes.
I actually don't know. I'll
probably not the same, right?
I'll follow back up. But you're right in that whole mechanism where like it ensures that you pretty much the way I like to think about it is that it ensures that a single 15-year stake will always earn more than 15 one-year stakes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so like, and kind of what the way that the things that are driving that, like, like every stake that ends, the contract checks to see if it needs to increase. But like a lot of the increases are like really small. The main driver, like you can pretty much ignore all the stakes except for the ones that started in like the first 10 days, because regardless of what the T-share rate happens on those previous ones, like the longest possible stake is always going to be the one that has the highest share rate impact. And it doesn't really matter what the share rate impact was kind of in between. So like, it's always like, if you look at the, there's a, like on one of the APIs that you can read the Hex data, you can see the stakes that like cause the share rate to change. And the majority of them are like day 3, which is really day 1, day 3 start days. And so like, those are the big drivers of the share rate ratcheting up are the early stakers.
And do you know, for example, as you're a developer, can you read when will the next stake come out that is significant for the T-share price that has started in the first 10 days, you could say? Can you get this information? Or
yeah, you can. This is something that I'm actually working on one of my sites right now. Is I'm trying to just estimate future share rate impact of stakes ending. Something
like if I click on your website, I get the information tomorrow, the share rate will probably or very likely go up by 10 hex. Per T-shirt.
So pretty much like the way I'm thinking of approaching it is that like,
cool.
Take all the like every day, calculate what's the longest stake that was going on, like the earliest start time for every day. So like tomorrow, what's like, is there a stake that started on day 1? And then like that's the one where like that's the main driver of the share rate change. And so and that's because then that's the other thing kind of factoring into like the future payout is that like it's the future payout per T-share, but you don't know how many T-shares you're going to get per hex. And so like that's kind of the other part of that equation that needs to be considered.
And then if you build this tool, we could see, okay, when is there probably going to be a high increase in T-share rate, but nonetheless it will always be better to do it earlier than later, because there will be times it increases a higher rate, but it can only go up. So earlier will always be better, nonetheless. Another thing, you were talking about the APY will probably go down. Like we said, we will have a higher staker class probably going up to 20%. And what I think is also true, as we have new people onboarded and new people, they will not put out a 15-year stake as the first one. That's not how I did it. Like for me, it was a learning process. Okay, it's a nice product. I do my first stakes, and then I start to get it, and then I put out the longer ones. So I think this will also be true for other people. So the more time passes, the more we will see a higher stake class and getting out longer stakes. And yeah, that's why I would also predict the APY of 40% cannot be maintained, but it will go down.
Yeah, but also, on the other hand, the thing that kind of helps the APY down is when the price is pumping, a lot of times people don't even need to stake. Like, as you can experience a 40% ROI in just a week by holding liquid just from the price going up, you're a little bit less incentivized to stake. So if we see the price continue to pump, maybe that's how we can keep the APY really high, is because like if price is just running, maybe there's a little bit less incentive to stake.
But wouldn't you say that the high APY is mainly caused by the liquid amount of hex that the OA holds? And if we assume it will not move them at all and it stays liquid, the APY should stay roughly the same, or should go down very slowly. Would you agree?
Yeah, it'll probably, like, if we assume that like everything stays the same, then maybe you can expect the APY to decrease by 3.69%. Per year.
Yeah,
because,
true.
Just because like the large liquid holders are getting diluted by 3.69% per year, so like their impact on the share pool is just a little bit different. But
true. Yeah, right. You're right.
So I'm gonna have to hop off here in just a couple minutes. So if there's any other last minute questions you guys have,
Sure. Yeah. As long as we have you here, Doc, maybe you can tell us, when did you start and why did you start to become active in the Hex community? I see you're very active in Twitter. You build own websites, own tools, own bots, and so on. Why did you decide, and how did you decide to become active and show face, basically?
Yeah, so I mean, I always love teaching people. That's kind of like in my community, that's kind of how I'm viewed. Like, I'm always the one that's teaching people new things, and this really kind of fit into that. And then also kind of just like being around Hex from the start, it was something that I could reasonably contribute to. Because like by now it's like in Bitcoin, like anything interesting that's ever been said about Bitcoin has already been said. And like, it's kind of like too late to really like contribute in a meaningful way, like kind of, it's like a casual contributor. Whereas like in Hex, like it's just like free game, like where there's only, I mean, now it's more because there's more Hex skins, but like early on, there were really only like maybe 10 people that knew what a T-share was. It's, and so like, it was something where like I was like kind of more uniquely in a position to contribute.
Cool.
And so like, that's kind of what really drew me into it. And then also just like, understanding that like, that's the thing that like can amplify the value is really just like the awareness and the marketing and like, and what I really try to do, I actually really try to kind of emulate a lot of the concepts that like Trace Mayer would always discuss about Bitcoin. I actually try to kind of like emulate a lot of that, we're like nice. Talking about that side of the discussion, kind of like the monetary science behind all this stuff. And so like
that's
that's huge. Trace Mayer was like a big inspiration into like how I approach, like talking about Hex and, and also, I mean, that's kind of, where this stuff, like that public discussion, like I like, discussing things in public because like, if you're like a billionaire who's like trying to figure out what coin you're going to buy, you're probably browsing around on Twitter, like, and so the more persuasive you can be, whether in like debate with like a hater or like, with like your content, the more chances that like someone who's trying to decide like how they're going to spend $1 billion, like, the more likely that they're going to be persuaded by you. And so,
yeah,
I think that, that's why I try to like, put out a lot of information is to, it's just marketing. Really, it's a marketing effort. And
nice.
I think it's
cool.
Good to have you on the team. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys too. Yeah, this is awesome what you guys are doing as well.
Cool. Yeah, thank you very much again. Thanks for taking the time to join our stream today. Dr. Dipcatcher, please follow him on Twitter. You see his channel right here. And yeah, it was a pleasure to talk to you, and we keep in touch, of course.
It was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I had a really good time. I'll talk to you later.
Cool. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that was really cool. Like,
nice.
The amount of information and processing we did today, I think quite deep level analysis was amazing, right?
Yeah, really cool guest, Dr. Dipcatcher. A lot of insights as well. I didn't know that the max length bot is his work basically. That's amazing.
Yeah. I saw
really
it
like
and
it.
didn't know it's from him.
That's really cool. Yeah, really glad he joined. He also explained a lot regarding the T-shares and the mechanics and so on. Yeah, it's so much fun to talk to this Hex Grassroots that I forgot the time basically, and I actually wanted to ask him even more about his journey, but we just dipped on the surface. But hey, it's not the last Hex Grassroots stream.
Yeah, he's definitely a guest I would love to see again, because he was so knowledgeable. And not only did he build the max length stake bot, but also this website, this tool where you can see the share rate increase. I think that's also amazing and very valuable information.
Definitely, we will bring him on. We will bring him on very soon again in the future, for sure.
All right, great,
cool. Also, thanks to the chat, Graphene, Bitfinesse, Effortless Crypto. I also saw Huddle Dog. Honor to have you here, my friend. Greetings to Switzerland, Dagron. Our friend from Nigeria is here as well, Nigerian Hexaking.crypto. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks again for your comments. It was great to interact with you guys, and we had a lot of fun.
We surely did. And stay tuned for Hex number 5. Will be announced on Twitter. Follow Meister Hex or Hex Misha on Twitter. And see you next time, guys.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.